In this video, I want to talk about what it's been like so far trying to get a job, a lot of the things that have been happening with the job market and the job culture. I've made previous videos in the past trying to help people find the perfect job for them. I've documented every company that I've worked for, and this is something that I'm very passionate about because I do believe that the workplace is a very important place that most people spend most of their life, unfortunately. So it's a place where we kind of want to feel secure and welcomed, and we want to feel like we are actually doing something with our lives. I'm a very big advocate in the people and companies doing right by the people. Companies treating their employees like they're actual people and offering benefits and structure and compensation for the amazing work that individuals can achieve. But now, with COVID and everything that's happened, companies have pretty much taken a downward spiral, and lots of companies have done things like letting mass amount of employees go. Just recently, the company GoPuff, which is an internet online shopping service similar to like Instacart and Shipt, they recently let go 300 people via internet meeting. And this isn't the first company. This has been several companies now letting go of mass quantities of people, claiming that they can no longer carry them, they can no longer compensate them. Their company is not doing as well as it should be doing because of all the COVID things that have happened. But in order to remedy that situation, there was stimulus checks that were given to businesses. If you were a business, you could apply for a check based on how many employees and revenue and things like that. You would get a check to help you sustain that business, including the employees. However, we find that most of the companies that have received these checks are the companies that are letting go of employees. And now it's become to a point where they're blaming us. We are the people that do not want to work. We are the problem, as always. My fiance recently sent me this post that he saw on Reddit where it said that basically they were short-staffed due to stimulus checks. They just decided they were going to just flat out say, yeah, it's definitely those stimulus checks. That is all that a person is needed to secure their life, so that is why no one wants to work. No company has thought to look a little deeper into themselves or do any self-reflecting whatsoever. It's so much easier to just point the blame on us. And while there's been some retaliation, a lot of employees have tried to fight back and do certain movements, this term of quiet quitting has now come up. And I believe that it is a way to defend against all of the bringing together that the employees have done in order to try and get the companies to be better. Quiet quitting, essentially, if you're not familiar with the term, is basically when an employee actually does what they're paid to do and nothing else. Meaning you don't do any extra work. You don't go above and beyond. You don't take on roles that you were not hired nor compensated for. This is looked at as very, very negative and is considered quiet quitting, which of course is highly discouraged. And also now there are companies that are telling people they're not allowed to have two jobs because they want you to be fully dedicated and fully devoted to them. But the problem is they don't want to compensate you for having just them in your life. So people are having no choice but to get two jobs. If I'm working extremely hard, I want to know at the end of the day I can pay my bills with one job. Quiet quitting is a term that companies are now using to manipulate people to make it seem as if we are the problem and that we are not doing enough to sustain ourselves as employees, that we are not proving that we are valuable assets to the company. The job market has been incredibly different, very desolate almost. I've never had a harder time finding a job right now, and I have 10 plus years of experience in food service. I have 4 plus years experience in management, and I can't even get an interview. I've combed my resume like most of you to make it look more appealing. I've dropped extra things that I didn't think were necessary. I've done everything in my power to try and just get my foot in that door. I've done things that I used to do, which I used to call companies to try and see if they were still even hiring at this point, because there are a lot of things, I almost want to call them ghost posts. Seems like a company is looking, but you apply and you don't hear anything back at all. And then when you go to check up on it, it's gone. Or they're like, we were never hiring. That actually happened to me once where I applied for a job at Victoria's Secret. It was a new post that had just happened to show up. I applied and I called the next day and they're like, no, we're not hiring for that position. And I was like, okay, well, You still have it posted up though. There's a lot of companies that will keep these posts up too. So then you're thinking it's new or you're thinking it's relevant. You go to apply and they're not hiring anymore. And sometimes it's a fresh post and they're just magically not hiring anymore. I also find that the pay has been substantially different. Now they're not even offering a livable, well, what's considered a livable wage has changed a lot in the last 2 years, but the average salary of certain jobs are not even getting offered. Companies like Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, Shipt, they're all highly saturated in this area, and my fiance has had the hardest time just trying to make his normal goal. And this isn't just in Florida. He's been following the Reddit, and everywhere Uber drivers and DoorDash drivers are not being able to make their goals anymore that they used to make. And most people are trying to get into this because they don't want to work a normal job because they're tired of being taken advantage of. There are people that are having to make the decision between food and bills, and that's never a decision that someone should have to make. When you do everything right, you know, you go to school, you get the education, and then you go out, you should never have to worry about how am I going to find a job? What job am I going to find? If you go to school for a job for a certain profession, you should never have to worry about, am I going to find the job that I want in this profession? The whole idea of going to school and trying to get an education so that you can eventually get the job you want is such a broken process. You having to have experience in that profession before you jump into that profession. That's something that they never told me in school. I thought I could just learn, get what I needed, finally get my diploma and jump right in there. Nope, you are not worth anything unless you have experience in it. That's why for people who are in college, I would highly recommend that you try and find a job that is in the profession you want. So you have that experience, and while you're working your way through school, when you're finally done with school, you have that experience. You don't have to worry about now having to then take an internship that doesn't pay you anything, because that's another thing that I think is complete bullshit. Internships, free internships where they don't pay you for your time, because to them the experience you're getting is enriching and apparently is good enough that it's gonna just pay your bills magically. Forgetting that a fucking person has bills and necessities. Apparently if you're young, you don't need to live. You don't have bills or anything like that. Here in Florida, you can't even afford to live by yourself anymore. Everyone's either bound to a roommate, a spouse, a best friend, or family. I've also found that there are job postings that are not even posting what they really are. They'll use catchy titles to get people interested to click it and to apply. But then when you try to get some extra details, you find out that it's not exactly the job you applied for. I applied for a job at a Dunkin' Donuts company, a franchise. It said Dunkin' Donuts district managers. I should have known. My first instinct told me that it was too good to be true, and I should have known, because there's no way that a company batch hires district managers. That's just not a thing. At least that I've known in my experience, it's just not a title that you look for in batches. It's just not. But I went ahead and I applied anyways. And when I finally got someone to message me, because they messaged me, they didn't call. Now I guess in this day and age, it's okay to just text someone regarding a job. There's no more phone calls or barely any emails. But she messaged me and I asked her flat out, is this a district manager's job or is this a store manager that is a progression to district manager? Because I've had jobs do this to me before, and specifically Dunkin' Donuts. There's like one company, there's one franchisee that owns a bunch of Dunkins in this area that they are like, they're crooks. They don't know how to properly put what they're asking for, and they're doing it just to get people to join their company. So I asked her flat out, hey, is this a district manager job or is this a store manager that is in the path to a district manager? She just writes back, manager. I said, okay. What kind? You gotta be specific. There's several different kinds. And then she puts back store manager, and I said, oh, so you're lying. So this isn't a district manager position. This is a store manager position that is then going to be into district manager. And then once again, when you join this and you ask a company for a timeline, I am okay with taking a pay cut and then taking a smaller role and saying, okay, I'm willing to sit here and restart and learn the company. Like, let's say, for instance, if I decide that I'm going to go and start at Burger King and they're offering a store management position, they're offering a crew to store management, they say words like quick progression to manager, things like that. You go ahead, you apply, you get in there. I'm totally okay with taking that little bit of time that it's going to take for me to learn, but it better be the quickest progression I've ever experienced in my life. Like, most companies, it shouldn't take you more than a year to move up. But with most companies, you're there for 2, 3, 4 years before they even consider you for a management position. And it doesn't take you that long to learn the job, especially simple jobs that everything is pretty much designed for ease. All you have to do is press a goddamn button and it just makes whatever it's supposed to make. But they make it so hard for you to progress, and then you end up losing interest. And the people that should be in those positions are no longer in the positions because they have to wait too long. And the people that don't deserve to be in those positions somehow get those positions easily because they're good at talking. They're not good at doing their job, they're good at talking. If you've ever met a manager that is not a good manager, pay attention to how they perceive them, how they project themselves, and how they talk. Most of them have the gift of the gab. They're able to talk to people really well. They're able to present themselves in a very professional, very responsible. You've seen those people before. It's because they know how to talk to people and they know how to weasel their way in. It's not because they work hard. People who work hard rarely get into the positions they deserve to be in. And I'm sure there's lots of people that'll disagree with me, and that's fine. But in my experience, no, it's never worked that way. I have busted my ass trying to get into higher positions, and it never works out. They always choose the person who is more corporate orientated, who more is following the company as far as believing in the dream and the culture, and they will fuck off the employees to make the company happier. And I've never been that person, and that's why I guess I've never moved up. Companies don't want you to put employees first. They want you to act like you will, but you're not supposed to. Now, with the way things are going, companies are trying to make it seem like they are putting in their employees first, and they're not. They're just trying to make it look good enough so that people will go ahead and join their company over other companies. My fiance and I have had to look for alternative jobs. We've had to look for different ways to make ends meet now because we're drowning. I used to be able to give advice to people who were looking for jobs, and it wasn't as hard. Now, in this kind of world that we're living in, the stuff that should work doesn't work anymore. I'm having to reinvent how I look for jobs. I'm having to come up with new ways, and even the way that I do things, it's not me that's the problem, it's the jobs. They're getting worse and worse. I can sit here and apply for 50 jobs, and by the end of the day, I won't get like one callback. And that one callback I do get is a company that's offering me way less than what I'm making in my current job. I think the best advice that I can give someone right now with everything that's going on is probably the same advice that people have always given me when they have asked me what I intend to do with the rest of my life, is to try and learn a skill that you really enjoy and to just make your own business, or to find your own way so that you can sustain your own living. Not being able to rely on another company or anything like that. To be able to be your own boss is essentially the best way you're gonna make a living for yourself and be able to secure yourself and not have to worry about anybody else. I think being able to work for yourself is the ultimate freedom. It's the ultimate way to secure yourself and be happy. And there are some people that are totally happy with working for companies, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. Make sure that you're being compensated well for your time. Make sure that all the extra skills that you've learned and all the extra departments that you've gone to, make sure you're being compensated well for that. If you're bilingual, you need to be compensated for that. If you work in a grocery store and you know how to do 4 departments, you need to be compensated for that. Know your worth, know the skills that you offer, and present that. And one way or another, you're gonna find something. And if not, once again, then you're gonna have to make your own way. And yeah, it'll be hard, but eventually it'll hopefully pay off. So that's all I have for this video. I hope this video helps to show you guys that you are not alone. It is a very rough time. You are not the only person that is struggling. I can just hope and say that I hope things get better. We are responsible for our own futures, and we need to start taking action. If things will not change, we need to change things ourselves and do the best that we can to take care of ourselves. If you guys have been struggling with finding work, or if there's anything that I missed in this video that's an interesting topic, leave me a comment down below and we'll go ahead and explore it some more. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!